All right, so Matt, the M4 Mac. What are your thoughts? Well, first of all, what are you using right now?
I have an M3, like bottom of the line ish MacBook from last year, roughly speaking. But it's I had a MacBook Air and 8 gig 256 storage until that.
Yeah.
And I was like, Docker has a storage bleed, or had one at least.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, I am starting YC. I do not have time to clean up Docker containers all the time.
Yes.
Stuff this. I'm buying my way out of this specific problem.
100%. I also had an M1 MacBook Air, used it for like 2-3 years, and then for me, it was iOS development.
Yep.
Just hits your RAM too hard.
Yeah.
Can't do it. That's
the way
so I
they
upgraded
like
to
it.
an M3 as well. And Apple recently released the M4, which is basically the fastest CPU in the world at this point.
That's crazy cool, isn't it?
But it's extremely cool. But the thing is it's not that much faster than the M3.
Yep.
So it kind of creates a weird equation here.
Are we comparing, like, when you say that, are we comparing top of the line with the top of the line, or has the base M4 improved relative to the base, like the equivalent side in the product of the M3, or what are we looking at?
That's a great question. The stat that Apple released, if we go to their release notes, the stat they released is that it is 1.8x faster than the M1.
Okay.
Whatever that means. I don't know if that means on the highest end, or maybe there's some single CPU performance is what I would guess.
They like to not be too specific, don't they?
Yeah, just kind of vaguely. Apple's also always comparing themselves to themselves.
Yeah. That's nice. It's good for their ego and whatnot.
Good for the ego, and
Just focus on yourself.
Just don't acknowledge your competitors.
The AMD Ryzen, irrelevant, doesn't exist.
Yeah. So what's going on with that? Like, there's, I think there's laptops that run Snapdragon now, or like some other CPU architectures that are ARM based and quite fast, and it runs Windows. So like, it's like people are trying to get up to the speed of this.
I think people are basically, like always, looking at what Apple's doing and then like surface level copying it. They're like, cool, they're going ARM, we're going to go ARM. And we're like, hey guys, the ARM bit of this wasn't really the relevant aspect.
Right.
The CPU architecture and unified memory and all these other things are kind of the important bit.
So some interesting, so we did get some stats here.
Awesome.
So 3,000 for M3 and 3,800 for M4. So like 20% or something.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
M4 star. M4, is there a caveat on it? An important one? Hopefully not. It's missing.
I didn't screen cap so the caveat on the M4 performance is they added some matrix operations, stuff like that might increase a benchmark without necessarily making the applications feel faster.
Oh, okay. So wait, the core has matrix operations, but the benchmark, it was the same benchmark running.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah. So it's like some things are going to be definitely faster, but it might be similar.
You're exporting, encoding video stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, yep.
Something like that.
Yep.
So for M3 users, luckily for us, it's almost like you're kind of cheering that it gets faster. You're also kind of cheering it doesn't. So you didn't just spend like $3,000 on nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. I had such a good experience with my MacBook Air that I didn't get a particularly high spec M3.
Yeah.
And the only thing that bothered me with that is that, and I noticed they got rid of it in this generation, I think because they realized it was just annoying, was that I only have 2 USB-C ports. And when you pay $2 and a bit grand for a laptop, guys, I expect just put some on either side. It's not a big ask. And they did this generation, thank God, on all of the processors. I was up spec before.
I was going to go bottom of the line M3, but then it was right around when Llama was releasing a ton of models. And I was like, I got to get enough RAM to run these models, because who knows?
Yeah.
And I think what happened was that was basically, I'm not upset about the choice, but I basically only use cloud AI now.
Yeah,
so
practically.
I really don't need it. But maybe with this Quen thing,
It's plausible. It's going both ways. I think it's not quite this generation. I'm skeptical it'll be next, but I think the M6 generation of processors are realistically going to be capable of running serious models locally.
Yeah. And that'll be a big deal.
It would be a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I think that's true both because the models are getting better locally, and so in another 2 years, you project forward, these models are going to be awesome. I think the bottom, the number of parameters you're going to need for good performance is still going to be fairly high, because you can't over-distill a model. It's just not going to work.
It's just too much human knowledge. We made too much junk.
Exactly. I'm skeptical of getting really properly tiny and performant.
You know what? I'll challenge that hypothesis.
Okay.
I'll challenge it. Right now, our models are basically, I mean, we have coder models and non-coder models, but otherwise they're very general purpose, right?
Yep.
When I'm working on TS Circuit, do my models need to know Python? Not really. Do they need to know
You can
Java?
have a JavaScript expert.
Yeah. I think if you start to get models that are hyper specific, you might see low parameter counts that are fairly functional.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. The things that will be missing though are like when I'm starting to write, there's some like embodied intelligence of I'm trying to like design or write a program that can design electrical things. It needs to both be Python and electronic.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah. There's a company, I think it's called Moondream, and they're working on customized models, like models where you can kind of get one specific to your needs.
Oh, cool.
And train it. And I think what they're trying to do is almost like an online configuration for the model you want. So I think there's potential in that idea.
Yeah.
And especially for enterprises where they're like, we're not going to use a cloud thing, but they also don't want to buy, they can't manage a
Microsoft
GPU.
might steal our data. You mean you're running your OS, their OS everywhere else?
You know, we laugh it off now, but it's possible that every query we've ever sent is being stored, and someday it's just going to get leaked. Like I always thought the government was pretty secure. I worked for a government contractor at some point, and then one day I just get a notice my social security number is out there. Yeah. I'm like, all right,
thanks government.
Yeah, thank you government, or whoever was storing it. But you know, you never know.
So okay, that's incredible. So, but hopefully they continue as the unified memory architecture becomes and the processor manufacturing becomes more mature. Hopefully it becomes cheaper and easier to integrate obscene amounts of RAM, and they'll have some incentive to do so because running big models will be their upsell rather than having a functional computer, which, you know, in 2024, having a minimum amount of RAM be 8 gig is just kind of a bit of a joke. Really.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's
crazy.
just bonkers.
I'm surprised it works so well, actually. But moving forward, definitely not. You need 16 gigs plus.
And I think the reason that's true is because, or the reason it's worked so far is because Apple has done a very good job, and they always have, of making a low cost to them, high cost to the user upsell that, you know, the wealthy, they charge more for their products for the wealthy than the poor.
Yeah.
And that's great because everyone ends up with their products and they end up with a huge profit. So, you know, congratulations, Apple. And the upsell has historically, if you want complex programs, you have to pay more. And I like the fact that now everyone's hopefully going to have access to as complex an application as you like. And now it's going to be graded on how complex an LLM you want.
Yeah.
You know, better future for everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. So interesting. It's incredible how performant this architecture is. And I'm so curious to see if we'll have AI accelerators architected in a similar unified memory type way in the not too distant future.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Seve, thank you so much.
Matt,
appreciate it.
Talk soon.
Talk soon.